not okay. Obviously, like the games right now are a little bit tough, and I don't think people are necessarily rooting for Thad in the same way that they might fervently root for Pascal or Fred or OG or Scotty, right? These guys who are, younger and in their primes, and people kind of like can see potential. Like people aren't looking at Thad and saying like, "Ooh, what could Thad turn into?" Obviously, right? Because he's in year 16. But there has to be some sort of appreciation for what he's doing out there. He doesn't take a single bad shot. He's always able to at least do something with the ball when the play breaks down. And the shots that are missing are like wide open corner threes, which, he's taking them within the rhythm of the offense. You have no issues with that. And then like shots at the basket, but he's able to consistently go down there, make plays. I mean, they're like high-low passes, picking out Chris. Chris unfortunately had a tough game last night, but I think him and Thad have a good connection. They really know Chris knows when to cut, and Thad knows how to find him, which is a really nice thing. Usually they're pretty efficient on those plays, and then you even saw Thad like make an alley-oop to beat the buzzer yesterday.
Yeah, at the end of the third quarter, fought for his life.
How many year 16 players are making alley-oops?
Shouts at that, man.
Yeah.
Played in his what 1,100th game.
Yeah, I've already made this comparison, but the James Milner of the NBA.
Okay.
Yeah, the comparison is he might not give you a 10 out of 10 performance, but he's every single game he's going to be between like 7 and 8. There's a consistency factor to that. Like again, a lot of players on this team, their success and especially their efficiency scoring wise is dependent on other players, right? We see when Pascal's on the floor how much life is easier for Gary. We see when Pascal's on the floor how much life is easier for Scotty, right? When Fred's on the floor, obviously being the point guard, he's able to sort of set plays up and be aggressive and give the team some sort of direction on the offensive end. There's a lot of players who really depend on other players, to cook, right? There's players who eat and there's players who cook, and then there's players who cook and eat. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's like season 2 of The Bear right now.
No, that's like a.
This guy was shouting, yes, Jeff, yesterday every time Down Jr. did something. Deep cut.
Anyway, so there's players who cook, there's players who eat, and Thad Young's consistent, bro. He's like a pack of ramen, man. Anytime you need it, it's right there.
Nah, we say Fred is rice and Thad is ramen.
Yeah. Because every Asian people know this. Like whenever you're in a dire spot, you're gonna bring some ramen with you because that's like sustenance. And that's like I think with that, it's like he doesn't depend on other guys to be successful, and he amplifies other people around him.
Yeah, I was thinking, I think like when the Raptors, if the Raptors ever get fully healthy,
yeah.
Thad, and I would throw Otto Porter in there too, because we've already seen Nick use Otto in closing lineups. Like, I can see Thad just being a staple in the fourth quarter of games.
I agree.
And it'll be interesting just to see, like, who will that be at the expense of, right? And, I mean, I could even see Thad, like, I don't think, like, when they're fully healthy, I don't think Nick is sending any of the starting five to the bench. Maybe he will. But I can see Thad being a really good starter for this team too. Am I aiming too high?
I think at a certain point, you don't want to rely on someone that much.
Okay.
I don't think you should ask that much out of that. Can he perform in a starting role? I think the answer is yes. Right, we've seen it right now.
Yeah, I'm almost like, is a starting lineup better with a guy who like doesn't need his shots, right?
Yeah.
Like he's out there doing all the Connect Four things,
and he's finishing efficiently around the basket. Which
like
I think when the Koloko was starting, obviously he was bringing the rim protection, which obviously Thad's not doing. Right. But at the same time, like he's also wasting a lot of chances around the basket because he's not strong enough to finish right now, or doesn't have the technique to finish right now. There is a case to be made, I think, for sure. But it's kind of similar to Liverpool having to start James Milner every game. It's like, how good of a team are you really when you have to turn to these kind of options all the time? But no, I think like the number one thing for me with that is just like one of the things. Another thing with players is like sometimes they only perform well when they start versus when they come off the bench. I thought Norm, for example, Norm Powell, who used to be on the Raptors, was a great example of this. Norm, every time he started, was like 20 points a game for you. And then when he came off the bench, it was like 12, and Nick would slander him post-game. And some players just don't play well in their own sort of like self-generated context. Whereas with that, he can perform with you whatever role you give him. Like the fact that, like, if I asked you this, can you remember one game where you were like, damn, Thad's really not having it tonight?
No.
He doesn't really have it
Only
tonight.
the ones when he got DMP'd.
Right?
Yeah.
So every single game he's played, he's been playing pretty well. There's a level of professionalism that comes with that, and I think honestly a lot of the players on this team can learn from him.
For sure, man. And I think at the start of the season too, when we were talking about how the rotation was going to pan out, we had Thad. We knew Thad was going to play, but we weren't sure like what the role was going to be, right? Like maybe like 10, 15 minutes a game, maybe a little bit more. I definitely think now he's played himself into a much more important role on this team for this season.
Yeah, I agree.